Hey guys, Jay here. Recently, I made a video talking about the worst value kits from Games Workshop, and if you can believe it, it was really hard to find some really awful value. But that got me thinking about the inverse. Are there any actual good value to be found in 40K boxes? Obviously, you do end up with miniatures, but some of them are a much better value proposition than others. Looking through the old catalog, a good example of a terrible value is basically any character in the game. They're all really expensive for like 1 or 2 miniatures. Also, the pricing is just getting extreme. I'm looking at you, new Wardens of Ultramar. That's a $60 kit any day of the week. I don't know where Games Workshop got $94 from. Thank goodness I'm not an Ultramarines player. The example I used for worst value kit that I could use as a baseline to judge all these other kits off of is probably the worst value in the game, the Imperial Guard Commissar, a $39 miniature that is only 30 points in game. Looking at this, points per dollar, it is 0.8. So that is the baseline that I can judge other things off of, and it starts us off in a deficit. Now, when looking for some deals, my brain immediately went to the Dark Eldar, the Drukari, and interestingly, with the new codex, racks got reboxed. They used to be 5 for $45, now they're 10 for $60. And that is a little bit interesting. Mathing it all out, it comes to around $2 per point. Much better than the Commissar, but still kind of bad. I expected it to be a little bit better. Another Dark Eldar kit that got me thinking was the Scourges. These guys are really old. But when things are really old, they tend to be a little bit better with the Games Workshop price rises. And so even though they do rise every single year, they don't rise as fast as the brand spanking new stuff. The Scourges are $40 for 5 models. And so that is 3.25 points per dollar, which is not bad. I mean, it's a little bit bad, especially with the Scourges because they only come with 1 of each heavy weapon in the box and it's a heavy weapon squad. And so to do what you want to do, which is a 4 Darkland squad, you do need to buy 4 boxes. But that's not important. I'm just looking for the math. Dark Eldar got us to 3.25 points, but is there something out there better? The classic example is Grey Knights and the Custodes for really cheap 40K armies. These are low model count armies, and so hopefully the models actually help out with some good points per dollars. The Grey Knight Paladin squad is 3.75 points per dollars. These are big chunky Terminators. Actually, they're not that big Terminators. They're pretty small by today's standards, but they're really expensive in game. And so it works out to a slightly better deal than most other kits in 40K. And the Strike Team, the normal Grey Knight Space Marines, these guys are $70 for 10 guys, 240 points in game, and so that is 3.4 points per dollar. I was kind of thinking it would be a lot better, but the kits, even though you don't need as many kits, they're still pretty expensive. Now moving on to the Adeptus Custodes. This should be the literal gold standard because it's Custodes of really good price per dollar. The Custodian Warden box is $65 for 5 guys, but those 5 guys cost 260 points in game. Caveat, if you build them as the most expensive thing, the Custodian Wardens. This works out to 4 points per dollar. I also thought that this would be much better than it turned out to be, but still, 4 points per dollar is actually something. And the Virtus Praetors, the Custodians on bikes, are kind of similar. You get 3 for $65, and so that adds up to 3.5 points per dollar. Not incredible, not amazing, but definitely better than almost anything else I looked at in the game. Now, there is also some skullduggery with the Custodes, because even though their models cost a ton in game, so you don't need to buy as many boxes, it's a very small model range, and a lot of those boxes come with more than just 1 unit. The Shield Captain comes in the regular Warden's box, Shield Captain on bike comes in the normal Vertex Praetor box, and so you're probably going to end up needing to buy multiple boxes to actually put the models on the field that you want to put down. And a lot of their tanks are still Forge World only, which means you're spending like double or triple the inflated Games Workshop prices to add those to your army. So Custodes, I feel like Custodes as a cheap army is a little bit of a trap. I really thought the Custodes would be like the big ticket item, the obvious best deal in 40K, but they're kind of not. And so then I just started reeling, thinking about like, well, what is out there that is actually a good deal? And I thought Magnus the Red. I know he's expensive, but he costs an absurd number of points. I think he's like 435 points in game. And so it turns out that he's so expensive in dollar amount that it still doesn't work out to be too impressive. He is 2.5 points per dollar. And his buddies, the Rubric Marines, also an older kit that is relatively valuable. 10 guys for like $65, 3 points per model. Not bad, not as good as the Custodes, but still not the juicy big number that I was looking for. At this point, I was kind of getting desperate. It seems like there's no good deals in 40K. The only good deals can be found on hobby products available from EonsOfBattle.com. Over there, we have all kinds of hobby goodies, Greytide Studio bits to spice up your Space Marines, Army Painter paints, brushes, base and cork, and we have glue. Ultra thin and ultra thick super glue. And we have terrain. It's the best way to support us doing what we do by getting a membership. Each month, members get a credit, good for any one terrain pack we've ever made or the brand new one. New in March, we have created the Creeping Forest, a collection of mysterious living creatures that can populate a board perfect for any fantastical wargame. Weave your models in between the scuttling crab trees, and you'd better watch your step or you'll get bit by the timber mimics. As you wander through a forest of monstrous mushrooms dripping with colorful toxins, you might come across the Land Kraken, a master of camouflage and a very dangerous encounter. This wondrous terrain collection was invented by us and is available physically and as STL from EonsOfBattle.com. At this point, I had been through a large amount of the Games Workshop catalog, and almost everything is like around 1.5 to 2 points per dollar. But then I had a thought. The Eldar is a really old range full of really expensive miniatures in-game, and I finally found something juicy. The avatar of Yanid, the new god of death, the Yinkarn. 260 points in-game for a $60 kit. That is 4.3 points per dollar. Actually something you can sink your teeth into. Also, I have one of these guys and I'm really excited about it. It's a really, really cool miniature. I like Yanid. It's a really, really cool take on the Eldar. And then, big model with a relatively small price tag on the box. This got me thinking of the magnum opus, one of the biggest plastic kits that Games Workshop has ever made, the amazing, the absolutely unplayable in-game Ork Stompa. 800 points in-game. This sucker comes out to 5.3 points per dollar. I'm pretty sure that on a technicality, this is the best value proposition in the entirety of Warhammer 40,000. Now that's not technically true, because you shouldn't take a Stompa in your games. They're really, really bad. There's something in that one Orc detachment with the red button where you can get lethal sustained or +2 AP on your guns, on your shooting attacks. There's something to it, maybe you can make it work, but the Stompa, Titanic units in general are just not having a good time this edition. Or really any edition. Games Workshop does not like their Titans to be too spicy. But in terms of points per dollar, I think it is the best thing in the game. Let me know in the comments below if there's something I missed, but I'm pretty sure I have found the best values in 40K, which is not terribly much. Games Workshop kits are really, really expensive, and maybe the real value is the friends we made along the way. Thanks for watching.